Hi, I'm Steve from the blog steve-says.net. I'm here today to tell a little story, if you like. Little stories. Stories are good. It's not maybe quite a bedtime story, but it's a story all the same. Have you ever worked with someone who just doesn't do what you ask them to do? No matter what task it is, give them instructions and they just don't do it. Just don't do what you've asked them to do. And you think, we've all worked with that type of person, and you just think they're useless. They're completely useless. They never do what they're told. But have you ever thought the problem might not be with them? It might be with you. Maybe. How confident are you when given instructions that the person understands? They might be clear in your head, in your crazy little head. They might be clear in your head, but for everybody else, are they clear? I think it's really important that as well as giving instructions, we maybe check understanding as well. The type of job that I'm in, if I didn't give clear instructions and make sure the people that I was giving them to actually understood, then there'd be nobody in Scotland able to use Excel, PowerPoint, do their pivot tables, do their table of contents, because they need clear instructions from me. So how confident are you that when you're given instructions, you're given clear instructions and also checking understanding? Okay, I'll leave you to think about that one just now while I take a little drink. So, how confident are you that your instructions are clear and that the person you're giving them to understands? Well, leads me on to my story. Back maybe 10 or so years ago, I used to work in a bank, and the team that I was in had to do a presentation in front of all of our colleagues from all over the world. Maybe just Scotland, but let's say the world. So the theme was, why do some people underperform? Or how can we get people to perform to their best? So that was the theme of this presentation that we had to give. And it was up to us to decide how to deliver this to all our colleagues in the world and nearby universities. Which is quite true of some of them actually, but hopefully none of them are watching. Anyway, so even back then I realised that some of my ideas were a bit out there, and I decided to take this theme, and how I wanted to deliver it was talking about Tickle Me Elmo. Yep, you're thinking, what? Remember Tickle Me Elmo? It's Elmo, the red furry little character, monster from children's TV programme Sesame Street. Maybe just over 10 years ago, the big craze at Christmas time for everybody to get this present was the Tickle Me Elmo toy, which was if you've never heard of Tickle Me Elmo, pause this video, okay, go to Google and type in Tickle Me Elmo, and you'll see it. Little Elmo, red and furry, cute monster from Sesame Street, tickle him and he does a laugh. I'm not going to try and do that just now because I don't want to. So that was the big craze. Everybody wanted a Tickle Me Elmo toy at one point. My talk had to stand up in front of everybody in the universe and talk about Tickle Me Elmo. How was that going to relate to the fact that why do some people underperform? You might well be asking. I'm thinking the same thing. Well, let me explain. Once upon a time, in a factory far, far away, when Tickle Me Elmo was really popular, they had to hire a lot of new staff to keep up with demand. One day, this girl went for the job, got the job, and on her first day, she had a meeting with the supervisor who was going to explain to her what her job was going to be. So he took her to the production line, which was where she was going to work, and explained to her, in his mind, his instructions that she had to follow. So he said to her, your quality control for this production line, every fifth Tickle Me Elmo that comes along, you need to make sure it's up to scratch. So you have to take it off and give it 2 test tickles, and make sure that it's, fit for purpose. It's going to do what it's supposed to do. So that's what you have to do. And he asked her, are you happy with that? And she said, yep. Fine. She knew what she had to do. He had explained to her what she had to do. And then she went off and done it. Then, a few hours later, the area manager came into the factory, met with the supervisor, wanted to check that everything was going okay. So the area manager and the supervisor went on the tour of the factory floor to make sure people were doing their job, that all these toys were getting made, blah, 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 as area managers tend to do. Well, when they got to the production area, the production line, where this new girl had started working, it became immediately obvious that there was a big problem. Big, huge problem. Why? Why for that problem? Well, there was Tickle Me Elmo dolls all stacked up, all piling up in a line, and there she was, backlog of Tickle Me Elmo toys, and she was there. What on earth was going on? The area manager was not very happy. The supervisor thought, what is going on? I've just explained to her what she should be doing. Why is there such a big backlog? They went over, she was there doing what she was doing, and they stood and watched. And it became really obvious why there was a problem. What was the problem? Well, they watched her, and sure enough, every fifth toy that came along, she picked it up. And what did she do? Well, she went into a little box of, how Elmo's got the ping pong sort of ball eyes. She went into a box, got two of them, got some little red fur, that he's made of fur, got some of them, put the balls into the fur and stitched them between Elmo's legs. That's what she was doing. That's what she was doing with every fifth toy. The supervisor went, what on earth are you doing? What are you doing? And she was like, well, I'm just doing what you told me. And they were confused. And the area manager said, explain, what is it you're supposed to be doing? And she said, well, my job is to take every fifth Tickle Me Elmo toy and give it 2 testicles. So she thought the supervisor had told her to give every fifth Tickle Me Elmo doll 2 testicles, 2 little balls, whereas it had meant to be 2 test tickles. He didn't check that she understood. He didn't ask her and say, well, what are you supposed to be doing? If he did that and she had said, give him 2 little balls, he would have been like, no. And there would be no problem. So that was my Tickle Me Elmo story that I had to stand up in front of everybody talking about, saying maybe some people in the team are underperforming because they're not understanding the instructions. Okay, so always check understanding. When you give somebody instructions, always check. Ask them to tell you what it is they're supposed to be doing. What it is being asked of them. Ask them to confirm understanding. Saves a lot of problems. Saves lots of little Elmo toys getting little furry balls between the legs. And you just get tickled. So that was my story. What stories have you got? What have you ever had to stand up and give a presentation on? Maybe along that theme, maybe something else, something a bit random. Let me know. We'd love to know your stories as well. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, cheers. The thing at the time was, what was the thing at the time? I don't know. So why are some people underperforming? Can you believe I'm doing the bunny rabbits? Bunny rabbits. About the Tickle Me Elmo doll. What the fuck? 2 testicles and make sure that it works. Hi, I'm Steve from the blog Steve Says. Look at the camera. Hi, I'm Steve from the blog steve-says.net, and